Well, you heard Amber talking about the expected announcement from the Prime Minister on manufacturing COVID vaccines in this country. That comes as we have seen increasing tensions for Canada on the subject of where the other vaccines are coming from, namely in Europe, where there has been the concern around protectionism. Today, we know that the European Union came out and they said that for the second quarter, they are expecting a surge in vaccines, and as a result, they said they had authorized exports of the shots to both Canada and the UK. But let's bring in trade lawyer Mark Warner, who often joins us here to talk about some of the trade tensions. And Mark, this really is an emerging storyline. I mean, usually we're talking about trade deals, but in this particular instance, we're talking about literally the tensions building over who gets vaccines first.
Yes, that's right. It's funny because I think for people in my line of work, we've been sort of waiting for this day to come. That it was always clear that there would be some difficulty in getting these vaccines around the world, given the demand because of the pandemic, and that they're totally new. And not as many of them have come on stream as fast as we thought. The two that crossed the finish line first are the Moderna and the Pfizer ones using a new technology, and some of the older ones by Sanofi and Merck have had much more difficulty. So that's also increased the demand for these. So not so surprising that when countries want the same product and it's in short supply, you're going to get fights about it.
Well, let's get into the law, though, because obviously, you know, the subject of protectionism has played out in all these different trade battles and, you know, who gets what, access to what item at what price. Are politicians in a position where they can literally just say, you know, our people have to get a vaccine first if there are deals that have already been reached between a particular government and a particular company?
So I think what's going on here is that the particular company that got the European Union or the European Commission upset was AstraZeneca. Now, AstraZeneca is a pharmaceutical company, but it's not really a company known for vaccines. And they were partnering with Oxford University that developed the vaccine that they're using. And the Commission is not really the one that normally purchases drugs. So you've got the Commission staff that really aren't that experienced in purchase agreements, and you've got a company not that familiar with producing vaccines. And what I think has happened here, I've looked at the contract because the Commission took the exceptional step last Friday of publishing the contract. It seems that basically, it seems to me the AstraZeneca has a bunch of conflicting obligations under contracts. It's got contracts to Canada, contracts to the United Kingdom, and it's got contracts to the European Union. And the European Union is saying, well, you're producing this vaccine in our territory, and you've got an obligation to supply us, but by the way, you're shipping it out of our country. Now, the company comes back and says, well, we have an obligation to meet these other contracts with the United Kingdom and countries like Canada. And the European Union says, well, where does it say that those contractual provisions take priority? And so that's what's led them to sort of come out with this, what they call transparency regime, which is an export authorization regime in Europe that will say, be able to approve exports of the vaccines if they don't impinge on what they call advanced purchase agreements that have been signed with Europe. So that's what creates the problem for Canada. Could that survive a trade law challenge? I mean, I think there are provisions in the WTO and in our CETA agreement that are general exceptions for times of shortage. So, you know, I think that even our trade people testifying yesterday in the House of Commons conceded that the Europeans probably have valid exceptions. And in any case, a trade dispute would take years to resolve, and we're trying to get the shots in the arm immediately. So unfortunately, I think what we have to do, the government's going to have to keep doing, is trying to keep the diplomatic pressure on the Europeans and then looking for other options down the line of producing vaccines in Canada. We'll wait to see what the Novavax announcement is this morning. My guess is that's not going to come on stream anytime soon. And so we might, before the fall or the late summer, in which case we might still be facing these same issues from Novavax because I think they're producing primarily in the Netherlands.
So before I let you wrap things up, let's just stay on that theme, because people are going to be watching what the Prime Minister likely has to say later today about a made in Canada vaccine solution. But just in the same way, when we talk to you about, existing trade wars and wanting to have some made in Canada solution, that takes time. So whatever that announcement is today won't come soon enough. You're saying it feels like getting issues resolved with Europe and others will take more of a precedent in terms of actually getting vaccine into people's hands today or tomorrow.
I think so, because even if we'll see what he says today, but a couple things have to happen. The plants in Montreal that Canada invested in has to be completed, and that I think they're saying will take July. Well, I think anyone who's driven around the streets of Toronto knows that construction often takes longer than what's projected. And then you've got the whole issue of getting the supplies and the inputs to make the vaccine, maintaining quality control. I think it's really kind of unrealistic to think this will be up and running in Canada before the end of the summer. And then it's got to roll out. And, we've seen with a lot of these vaccines, all of these companies that have come first, Moderna and Pfizer and AstraZeneca, have had difficulty meeting their initial targets that they've promised, because vaccines are hard. So in the initial outlay, we're really going to be counting, I think, on the ramp up of Moderna and Pfizer and getting our supply from this AstraZeneca. There will come to be a point when we'll eventually down the road get more of it. But unfortunately, I don't think the Novavax announcement today is going to solve our immediate problem.